Who will win the 2022 Royal Rumble match? That's what I wanted to discuss as I'm really excited for the Rumble this year. I'm Troy from Dropkicks and Fireballs, so let's get into it. In my opinion, this will be a good pay-per-view. I'm anticipating some obvious wins and losses, but when it comes to the Rumble matches, there's a lot of intrigue and possibilities I wanted to talk about. Before getting to that, let's quickly run through the other matches on the card. Miz and Maurice versus Edge and Beth Phoenix. I'm almost 100% sure that Edge and Beth take this one. I expect some hijinks from the Miz and Maurice, but in the end, I see the Hall of Famers as the victors. If they want to stretch this feud out, they could have the Miz and Maurice win, but I don't think it's necessary. Besides, there's bigger matches for Edge at WrestleMania, such as AJ Styles, who's mentioned wanting to get a match with Edge. Honestly, that could be one of the best matches at the Showcase of the Immortals. Becky Lynch versus Dewdrop. By far, this is the easiest match to call. I'm glad that WWE took a risk and is giving us a match we haven't seen before. However, if there's one match I had to bet on, it would be this one. By hook or by crook, Becky's walking out as champ. For the WWE Championship, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. A lot of people think Bobby Lashley can get the victory here, especially with some possible interference. I can see why, as Brock's gotten the upper hand on Bobby Lashley during their promos, and it could be a good way to set Bobby up as the underdog who overcomes the beast. However, I do not see this happening. I think WWE wants Roman and Brock as champs when they eventually collide. Besides, it's not going to help Brock if he eats a pin here. The only way it works is if there is some interference from Roman, which leads to their match being for the Universal Championship. For the Universal Championship, it's Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. WWE has done a great job of showing Seth Rollins as a threat to Roman Reigns. He has a history of defeating Roman, and he's outsmarted him and the Usos a couple of times now on SmackDown. With that said, I do not see Roman dropping the belt before WrestleMania. I do have high hopes for this being one of the best matches on the card, though. The history these two have should make for great storytelling, and they both deliver in the ring. The Men's Royal Rumble match. Big E is one of the favorites to win it, and I can see why. His title loss at Day 1 was a shocker to most, and it feels like his reign was shortchanged. I want to point out something that I think impacts the results of this Rumble. No matter how the championship matches play out, the winner will technically be a heel. This leads me to believe the winner of the Rumble has to be a face, and Big E is one of the biggest faces of the company. Also, I've heard multiple people mention that if Lashley wins, Big E can challenge him to get his belt back. I'm not a fan of this idea though, as it would mean a short reign for Lashley. Instead, I think it would make more sense for him to go against Roman. Keep in mind, he still has a chip on his shoulder from losing to Reigns at Survivor Series. Having him win the rematch would fall in line with WWE's usual storytelling, and it would be a great WrestleMania moment that fans can get behind. Here's the thing though, it is kind of a safe pick, and I'm not sure if they want the Rumble to be too predictable. So while I think he's the likely winner, there's still other scenarios that I think are possible. Orton and Riddle have been two of the bigger faces on Raw lately. If they wanted to use the Rumble to build a new star, I think it's plausible for Riddle to win. This would cause problems with Randy, resulting in a split. Now, if he won, a matchup versus Roman or Brock would be one we haven't seen before. And with Brock reportedly not being the biggest fan of Riddle in the past, a feud between the two would have some extra tension. There are 25 participants named so far in the Rumble, leaving room for 5 surprises. Xavier Woods was recently cleared to return to the ring, and I think he's popping up in the Rumble. I would love to see him pull a surprise victory here. LA Knight and Tommaso Ciampa have both had dark matches recently and could make an appearance. Ciampa being this year's Iron Man would be a great way to reintroduce him on the main roster. Speaking of stars moving from NXT, Johnny Gargano making a surprise return would definitely get a pop. This is unlikely as he may not return to wrestling until his child is born, but it's still an unlikely surprise I'd love to see. I try to avoid seeing too many rumors, so there's still a couple of spots that I hope WWE uses wisely. For the Women's Royal Rumble match. I saved this for last as I think it's the most intriguing match on the card. Similar to when Brock Lesnar attempted this a few years ago, Charlotte Flair will be entering the Rumble as champ. It's not clear if, like Brock, she'll start at the number 1 spot. Now, what I like about the Women's Rumble is there are a lot of possibilities here. Charlotte is the most decorated women's wrestler in WWE history. Her being the first woman to enter the Rumble as the champ and win is definitely possible. However, I get the feeling that she's going to be eliminated by Lita, who hit her with a twist of face last week on SmackDown. If I had to guess a game plan, Lita eliminates Charlotte but loses the Rumble. This continues their feud and they face off at WrestleMania. The reason for this is, I believe whoever wins at the Rumble is going for Becky Lynch. The list of wrestlers who have a bone to pick with Big Time Bex is a long one. Bianca Belair, her getting another shot at Becky to make up for last year's embarrassingly quick loss at SummerSlam might be one of the better stories they can tell. Liv Morgan, similar to Bianca, she's failed multiple times against Becky. However, she had a lot of fan support in those matches, and they could tell a good story with her finally getting the win. Shayna Baszler, I would love to see her come out on top and have the company do right by her with an eventual championship win. It would be heel versus heel though, and unlikely they do this for WrestleMania. Also, at last night's SmackDown, she said she would go after Charlotte if she won. I think the better story would be her going after Becky. Naomi is someone who deserves a mention too. They've dragged her storyline with Sonya Deville for far too long, and after her win on SmackDown, it looks like the feud will roll into the Rumble. With Sonya likely doing whatever she can to get Naomi eliminated, a win would be a surprise and maybe a crowd pleaser if Naomi overcomes with all the odds stacked against her. One fantasy booking to throw out there, Mickie James wins the Rumble and goes title for title against either champ. This is pretty close to being impossible, but with her being the Impact Women's Champion and being in the match, anything is possible. There are 23 women so far who have been named for the Rumble, leaving 7 spots open. The biggest name to fill one of those spots is Ronda Rousey. There's rumors aplenty that the company is trying hard to get her for the Rumble. In my opinion, if she shows up, she's winning it. And it's Becky versus Ronda at the biggest stage of them all. When she last wrestled, she was a heel. However, this would be a big match, and we never got the one-on-one that we initially wanted. The one woman I'd had hopes for is Paige. She made small hints on social media about a possible return. And after Daniel Bryan returned and then Edge, she has been the one wrestler fans wanted to see return if her health would permit it. These have been my thoughts and some of my theories on how I think this Rumble could play out. What I would like to see happen, my fantasy booking would be Gargano returning to the company, winning the Rumble, and taking on Roman. It would be a great underdog story. Though admittedly, it would feel like Daniel Bryan 2.0. For the moment, I'd be excited for Bianca to go back-to-back, as it's such a rare feat. For a surprise win, I'd be happy if Shotzi won, but with her being a heel, I think it's unlikely. Let me know your thoughts and fantasy bookings for this year's match in the comments below. If you'd be so kind, give a like and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.